Welcome back to Fast RC, everybody. My name is Ryan. In today's video, I'm going to talk about 4 things I like about the Traxxas Slash 4x4. So strap in, and I'll see you on the other side of the intro. Alright, so let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and dive in and start talking about the things that I like about this Traxxas Slash 4x4. So first, I want to start with handling. And really specifically talking about the Traxxas 4x4 LCG chassis, which you'll find on like the Traxxas 4x4 Ultimate and things like that. With that LCG chassis, the handling on this truck is pretty darn good. I would say out of all the different short course trucks I've owned, which has been a lot, I don't know, probably somewhere around 8. I'd say definitely the Slash 4x4 LCG ranks among the top as far as my personal favorite for handling. And by handling, I mean in general, how it rides off-road, on asphalt, or even in racing situations on like clay tracks and things like that. I've always been pretty happy with how the LCG handles, just with it being so low to the ground and that lowering that center of gravity. It is pretty easy to drive. It's very beginner friendly, at least I think it is. And from a racing standpoint, believe it or not, I actually have raced with the Traxxas Slash LCG a couple times, and I'm by no means an expert of racing, but I did enjoy racing with it, although I'll admit I was getting crushed by like Techno SCTs 4x4s like constantly. So take that with a grain of salt, but I did enjoy how it handled. I like the responsiveness of the suspension system, how it's able to hit a tight corner. And you'll see on some of my clips, my current 4x4 Slash that I have, the Intimidator edition, that thing handles on a dime. It like you flip the wheel and that thing will pretty much do a U-turn. But overall handling, steering, I really do enjoy it on this truck, and I think it is one of the strong points. Now with the HCG chassis, it does take away some of that responsiveness in a trade-off for a little bit more ground clearance and a little bit better handling off-road, I believe. So just kind of think of it in that sense. There's a little bit of versatility. If you're going to go with a low CG chassis, it's going to do a little bit better on tamed surfaces, asphalt, dirt without a lot of rocks, clay tracks, things like that. It's gonna be better. If you go HCG or high center of gravity, gonna do better with the chunkier terrain, a lot more bigger rocks, rougher terrain, gonna do a better job there, where maybe that lower center of gravity isn't quite as important. So that's what first thing I like about the Traxxas Slash 4x4. Let's go ahead and talk about the second thing. Okay, so the second thing I like about the Traxxas Slash 4x4 is the versatility, and I kind of touched on that in my first bullet point here, but the versatility of the Traxxas Slash 4x4 is one of my most favorite things about this vehicle and just Traxxas in general, and why I talk so much about Traxxas on this channel. If you've been around my channel or seen a lot of my videos, I think probably the most common thing that I talk about the most on my channel is just versatility of the platform, specifically the Traxxas Slashes and the Stampedes, and just how versatile they are and how many different applications you can apply them to. And so what I mean by that, without getting too far into the weeds, just like I talked about in my last bullet point, Traxxas Slash 4x4, you can have a low center of gravity chassis where it's going to help it to handle better on asphalt, dirt, clay tracks, tame surfaces, without a lot of like rough or like rock terrain. You can convert that to a high center of gravity chassis where it'll handle rougher terrain, rougher terrain a little bit better, might jump a little bit better, gives it a little bit more ground clearance. So that's just one platform. Then you can start branching into other things. We've seen how they're able to convert this Traxxas Slash 4x4 into a buggy, which is now the Jado 4x4. That's basically the same chassis as a Traxxas Slash. There's monster truck variants we've seen. I've even seen people try to make these things into rock crawlers. But the point stands, the versatility of this platform is, in my opinion, second to none. There's so many different things that you can do with this chassis and this drivetrain. It's almost endless, and the different customizations, and I guess in my little particular niche of this hobby, that's the thing I value the most by far. And just looking at like my Slash Intimidator, I set that thing up just primarily for street driving, and I love it. And if I ever get tired of that, I could slap on some 4x4 tires, change the chassis, and now this thing is an off-road Intimidator. So that's my second thing. By far, the versatility and the amount of different things that you can do with the Traxxas Slash is just almost endless. All right, and the third thing I like about the Traxxas Slash 4x4, I'm going to start with parts support. So when you first get into this hobby, one of the things you're going to want to try to pay attention to, if you remember to do this, is to just, when you're looking at different models, whether it be Traxxas or Arrma or Team Associated, Losi, which are all kind of the same under Losi and Arrma under the same umbrella. Whatever you pick, you want to pay attention to part support and just where you're able to get replacement parts from. By all means, it's okay if you're going to end up ordering parts online, and if you go with a model that maybe doesn't have replacement parts stocked at your local hobby shop, that's totally fine. But in case of Traxxas, and one thing I've always preferred is that my local hobby shop does stock a lot of Traxxas parts, and I would say at least 95% of the time I'm able to go to the local hobby shop and buy the exact replacement parts that I need if I do in fact break something. And that's just something that's always been important to me. Parts availability, Traxxas, I would say by far is number one. And right behind them, probably honestly not even that far off, is Arrma. Arrma is so popular nowadays that they have pretty extensive parts support as well, so you wouldn't have to worry about anything going with them either. Same thing with Losi. Losi's been in the game forever, and also Team Associated. Those are probably like the top four. But yeah, Traxxas part support. If you get into the hobby, you get a Traxxas vehicle, part support is very, very good. A lot of times replacement parts aren't too expensive, which it's something that I really do like. But yeah, just overall, third thing, I think for most Traxxas vehicles that I talk about, part support is usually one of the things I like the most. And no different here, Traxxas Slash 4x4, there's tons of parts. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the fourth thing that I like. And piggybacking off of what I just liked in the third bullet point, let's talk about just upgradeability and different parts that are out there that you can upgrade your vehicle. So long story short, with the Traxxas Slash 4x4, upgrading this truck is like, there's just endless parts. There's arms, there's knuckles, there's suspension components, there's shocks, there's bodies, there's wheels and tires. You name it, it's out there, especially for the Traxxas 4x4, where it's been in circulation for well over a decade. There are tons and tons of parts, and like I talked about with the versatility of this platform, you could basically make this truck into whatever you want to make it into, and pretty good chance that there's parts out there for it. So that's my fourth and final bullet point, just the endless amounts of parts and upgrades. If you want to change your arms, wheels, tires, like I said, you can totally personalize it and make it to your personal touch. And if you're a fan of if you've seen my channel, if you're a fan of this hobby, you know that my number one thing is just customizing my own rigs. I never leave them stock. I always make them my own personal touch, and I usually try to go like above and beyond and try to make them into something totally what they were not meant to be. But that's the fun of this hobby. And of course, the Traxxas 4x4 Slash platform is a great place to start with that. So with that, let's go ahead and get to final thoughts. Okay, and final thoughts. So let's just talk real quick. If you're looking at the Traxxas Slash 4x4 platform as your first vehicle or your second vehicle, or just something you're looking to get into as like a 10th vehicle, you can't go wrong with Traxxas Slash 4x4. Been around for well over a decade. It's an extremely durable truck. I wouldn't say it's like a master of anything other than it's other than it's a pretty durable truck. It's probably not going to win a ton of races with it. There's other trucks that are better at racing. There's probably other trucks that are better off-road, but this one's a good middle of the road. Tons of upgradeability, parts support. Overall, just a great platform to start off with. And of course, like I talked about in my last bullet point, there's tons of ways you can upgrade this truck and make it your own. So I would definitely give it a thumbs up and recommend getting this truck if you do want to get into Traxxas and pay that Traxxas tax. But that's all I got for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and stick around. Once this video ends, we're going to have a couple more videos popping up. This can be a part of a 3-video series on the Traxxas Slash 4x4, so go ahead and click one of those videos, and I'll see you in the next one. I feel the power surging, ready to take